Hey, Mike Callahan here. I had a question submitted earlier last week and several other times. I made some videos around it back in the heyday around piece rate, pay rate, the benefits, the negatives, and how to actually implement it. So I'm going to spend the next 15 to 20 minutes here before I hop on a sales call and kind of dive in and show you how we did that in our lawn care company. So we instituted a piece rate pay system probably, I would say, 7 to 8 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. Benefits of piece rate pay. The biggest misconception that we're going to get out of the way before we even dive into this is people do it to avoid paying overtime. Legally, you need to pay overtime. And if you are getting into piece rate pay or percentage of the job to avoid paying overtime, you are doing it for the wrong reasons. And I highly recommend that is not your motivation. The whole goal here is to put more money in your employees' pockets while creating a culture of a team. So the labor and management are working together instead of an antagonistic relationship where they're pounding heads and the management's yelling at the labor to always move faster and get jobs done under budgeted time. Legally, most states, all the states I'm aware of, you do need to pay overtime. So you're not going to get away from that. But the whole goal is most of the employees that we see that adapt to this end up making between 1.5 to 2 times more than they would have made with overtime. So it is not a way to avoid overtime. It's a way to empower your employees to make the right decisions and basically run their own little business within yours. So as we're going in, the benefits are they're going to take ownership. It's going to basically evolve to where you're not babysitting your crews, and we're going to empower them to make more money. So traditionally what we did is there's a minimal amount of sales that need to happen on a particular crew. So let's just call it $800 a day in gross sales for a 2-man crew. Once that minimal threshold is hit, that schedule would be booked. So if your team members or crew members' goal is to be out as soon as possible, that's totally fine as long as we hit that minimal number of hours with a quality standard. Otherwise, if they are seasonal workers and they want to make as much money as possible, what they will do is come back to you and say, we want more work. So if they're budgeted for 10 hours and they get it done in 9, we're still paying them for 10, which was very common. So what we would do is if they could hit the quality standard and the production rates for the minimum standard, we would go back into the existing neighborhoods they're already into because it included drive time with the budgeted time. And we would go in and create more route density, doing things called 9-arounds or radius bombs to a product called Send Gyms. We continue to build route density around the areas they're already in. So maybe now instead of being budgeted for 10 hours, they're budgeted for 12, but they still get it done in 10. They get paid for 12. So that is the goal. You're going to get the buy-in of your employees with that quality standard. Next standard is one of the gentlemen when we first implemented a piece rate pay system. I'll leave his name out of the equation because he does watch some of these videos, but basically his first job of the day was 10 minutes with shop time to load all the blowers, the weed whackers, the edgers, all that equipment in there. They got paid 10 minutes a day to actually load the truck and then unload the truck, check the oil, brakes, all the good stuff that you should be doing pre-trip. Gentleman got all the way to the east side of town, which was the farthest point. Our shop was located on the west side of town. He called my cell phone, said, "Hey, Mike, we forgot the blowers and the weed whackers." And I said, "Hey, what are your shop times on the schedule? 7:05 to 7:10, whatever that was." And what I did is I said, well, unfortunately, I can't help you out. And traditionally, I would run across town to give them the blowers because with rush hour, there'd be a 3-hour back and forth, which obviously we'd lose money on for the day. So what we did is said, hey, well, we've already paid you for it. We made a stand on it, and he had to drive all the way back to rush hour to the shop and then all the way back to start the day. So he lost about 2.5 to 3 hours of his day. So what happened is when he came back to the shop, he actually told the rest of the guys and girls on the crews, like, holy crap, Mike held me accountable to this and I actually had to do it. So I will tell you, within the next day or two, every one of those crew leaders was there early, loading their trucks, making sure that they were ready for success, getting out of the shop before rush hour as it was planned in the budgeted time. Same gentleman about 3 weeks later. I'm going to get into later in this talk how to actually implement this for buy-in. But same gentleman was backed up 2 days. So he had a Monday and a Tuesday schedule. He started Monday, worked through Monday, and got about 3/4 of the way through Tuesday with a very long, probably 12-hour day. And basically he called me on my cell and said, hey, Mike, according to this, I should be getting paid for 16 or 17 hours. So in other words, he basically got done about 6:37 at night, and he literally got paid to about midnight. So he goes, am I actually going to get paid for that? I said, absolutely. Is all the jobs done? Yep, the jobs are done. Is there a quality standard? And we're not going to get a callback. So nope, everything's good. So I said, perfect, no problem. You'll see that in your paycheck the following week. As long as everything's done and there's a quality standard, to be good. So that was another big story where he came in the next day, told everybody, and then after he got his paycheck, he told everybody on the team. And then at that point, all the employees wanted to buy into this piece rate pay system. So we're going to show you how to dive into this. But before we dive into a piece rate pay system, we need to make sure our estimating and our production rates are accurate, because we cannot hold our team members accountable to a production standard that does not hold true. So we need to make sure our estimating process and our production rate standard is appropriate before we hold the crews accountable for it. And then we're going to show you, I'm going to break down, I made a little Picasso here of a picture and a house and some driveways. So I'm going to go in and show you how we basically created process and systems on that piece of paper real quickly to create a standardized process procedure. Every time we stopped at a house, the crews, no matter the crew was doing the same exact process and procedure, that it created a predictable production rate based estimating system that we could hold them accountable to with a quality standard and still get the work done and create a team atmosphere of management and team. Because we didn't care if they got it done in 7 hours, if their budget for 10, or if they got it done in 10 and got paid for 10. The whole goal was to work together to be more efficient with a quality product. And that's what we're going to dive into. So first thing we're going to look at is creating estimates that are actually realistic with a budgeted time. So as we're diving in here, I'm going to pull up the other screen and show you what this looks like. So on a really high level, I'll throw this up to the broadcast here and I'll shrink this down. On a high level, this is what we call our pricing blueprint. So I'm not going to get into the actual production of it, but I'll show you how we actually kind of built this out and made this work in our company. And now probably several hundred companies as well that we've worked with. But this is literally how we do it. So I'm going to kind of pull the curtain back and let you know. So what we did is we ran reports from 6 to 12 months of historical data. And we said up to, say, 5,000 square feet in this fictitious example, we could fertilize up to 5,000 square feet. And that would take, so 1 to 5,000 square feet here is taking 0.25 hours. So that's 15 minutes. And we're charging $65 for the first 5,000 square feet. So whether it was 1 square foot or 5,000, we're charging $65. Then we went in and said, how much are we charging per hour? And this is a fictitious example. So don't look at it and say this is gold. It's not. It's made up. But it's going to give you the foundational idea of what we go through to build this. Dollars per man hour charge is $60. And our expense per hour is 30. So expense per hour is our labor only, where we're breaking even before we make a profit. So it costs us $30 an hour per person before we make a profit. So now we've got our labor portion here. So this is part of a MORS system, a multiple overhead recovery system, where we're recovering different parts of your equipment, your labor, and your G&A and general administrative costs, and then marking up some things like subcontracts and materials and some other factors as a percentage to recover part of that overhead. But on a really simple basis, as it evolves to piece rate pay, we want to be able to create a standard production that's predictable across the board. So we covered our labor portion. Now materials, our cost per 1,000 square feet on average across the 5 or 6 rounds we're doing is $1.25. And we're going to be charging $5 per 1,000 square feet after our base price. So anything above 5,000 square feet is 1,000 square feet. We're charging $5. So that's every 5,000 over a base of 5,000 here is $5 more, 0.1 man hours to do it, and a cost of $4.25 labor and materials before we make a profit. So this is the foundational part of estimating, and whether using piece rate or not, it needs to be predictable, and I'm going to show you how to track it. Other example here for lawn mowing is up to 5,000 square feet is our base. We're charging $50. In this example, we've got an expense per hour or charging per hour of $45. And obviously, this isn't a great example as far as profitability, but our expense per man hour is break even at $38.45. So if you're in the Northeast and you're running 4x4 trucks that plow within the winter, this actually is probably a somewhat of a realistic number at scale for breaking even. So if we're charging $50 for the first 5,000 square feet, in this example, we're saying it's taking 1.1 man hours. That's probably obviously really high. So let's just say for one person, it's taking a half hour. And our break even now is going in and multiplying our expense per hour times our total budgeted time times our expense per hour. And that's giving us $19.23 expense out of that $50 we're charging. So we've got a profit of $30.78 for our base price and a margin of 61%. And then every 1,000 square feet over 5,000 in this example is 75 cents, 0.01 hours, and a cost of 64 cents. We're charging 75 cents per 1,000, and it's costing us 64 cents to produce this. So on a really, really high level, this is what the foundational things need to be done for a piece rate pay system or any estimating system for that matter. So if you have any comments or questions, drop below. I'm kind of looking off the other screen to answer them as we go here as well. But now we've got our standardized production rate based on square footage and an hourly rate, an hourly expense, a cost per materials, and a profit. So the next thing we're doing is we're going into CRM, whatever it is. Ours of choice is Service Autopilot. But what we got here is different types of lawn mowing. So I've got lawn mowing for residential, and I've got lawn mowing for commercial. In this example account I've got here, but we're going to look at 3 or 4 different types of mowing potentials. So we've got lawn mowing for residential with no fence gate. We've got lawn mowing with a fence gate, 36 inches or smaller for like a stand-on 36. So between a 36 and a 60, that's going to be a different production rate. And then we've got lawn mowing for commercial industrial lots, and we got lawn mowing for commercial like a strip plaza, and then we have lawn mowing commercial for like an HOA. Each one of those is going to bear different production rates. So we want to be able to give an accurate budgeted time with a quality standard for these crews for this piece rate. In addition, these are different postal codes that we ran in. So we had drive time to be added separately. So I'm going to show you how we did that. So I'm going to go into this lawn mowing example here and show you how we break this out and actually set this up. So no matter the CRM you're using, this is the foundational part of pricing and building a predictable system for a piece rate pay system. So in the price matrix, we've got a calculation of quantity rate times visits, and we've based that on the turf square footage. So from 1 to 10,000 is this price, 10,000 to 1 to 12,000, and then when we get to the bottom here, every 1,000 over that 14,000 is X amount of dollars more money, budgeted time, and cost. That's how we're setting this up. And what we're doing is taking the formula from here at a simplistic level and copying and pasting these 5 cells into the matrix sheet. Now this has got multiple cells and you can break that out, but that's how you can transfer that over. So going in on a high level, now that we have this, we're going to go into the More tab, hit property measurements, and pull up Google Earth satellite of this property. We're going to hit satellite. And we're going to go in and actually measure the property right inside the product of Service Autopilot. And this is exactly how we tackle this. So I'm not going to be real careful each little dot here, but honestly, within 100 square feet or two coming out, it's going to come out in the wash. So we've got this area. I'm going to label this turf up top on the left, and I'm going to label it a green color here. And I'm going to also add another area. So let's just say there was a pool in here. This could be a great thing for commercial business as well. But when you go in here, you can add or subtract areas. So I'm going to label this a blue area and actually subtract this out. So you can see now I've got the total turf area minus the pool gives me 8,300 square feet. So if you've got a commercial property with multiple islands or different areas you're measuring out for snow removal or plowing, landscape design build, this is a great way to do it. Once you hit save, this will automatically be saved right on the record. So every time you pull it up, you have this here, and you can take a screenshot and give it to the crews if you have questions. Custom field here, we're going to go right in and save this to turf square footage and hit save. Now it's saved on the client's record. So we go in, hit add an estimate, scroll up, grab our template. So we'd want to create templates for landscape maintenance, design, build. If you're in home cleaning, you'd want to do it for your weekly, bi-weekly, deep clean, monthly, or if you call it a top to bottom. But those are the things we got to do in each type of service industry to have that line up. So we're going to grab a template here for lawn care. And you can see the $8,300 in this fictitious example is $30, 0.4 man hours, and a cost of $14.76. And these are different drive time zones. So if I add the number 1 in here, that gives us $8.09 drive time. All the consumer sees is $38.09. but we know we have budgeted time for on-site at 0.4 hours and right here 0.16 drive time. Now we're giving the crews a realistic on-site budgeted time with drive time on average across the 25 or 30 logs we're doing. So this is the foundational part of a piece rate pay system. And I'm not going to get into production rate based estimating, but on a high level, these are the things you need to have to be able to track 6 to 12 months of data before you implement it. Otherwise, you will have a revolt in your company. So we send that estimate out, we win it. Now we've got 0.56 man hours right here for the team to get done. So a little over a half hour for one person. So if it's a 2-person crew, that drops down to a 15-minute job with drive time. When you are dispatching your work, we've got all the jobs here. So we're going to be starting and stopping the jobs on a mobile or hard copy on paper. So 7:45 to 8 a.m. All the jobs have start and stop times. We have a rate anywhere from $40 up to almost $400 a cut here. This job was a skip, so there's no time in there. And then we scroll down. So we've got total budgeted hours of 22.52 for the full day. And we've got 5.7 man hours actually worked for one person. So we can go in and add another column of actual time. What that's going to do is let us know what it looked like for a 2-person crew. And that is going to be right here. So we were budgeted 22.52 hours, and they did it 11.52, and they grossed a little over $1,100 for a 2-man crew in that time. Now that is a little deceptive because that does not include the drive time in this. That's just the on-site time. So the next thing we're going to do is take that 22.5, drive that in to something like this. So budgeted time for the day was 22.5. Right off your dispatch or closeout day screen, no matter the CRM you're using. Like I said, that is Service Autopilot. But this is what's going to give you the foundations of paying your gentlemen and ladies in the field for piece rates. We've got our timing here from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., 10 hours, a lunch of a half hour, the crew members' names and number of people on the crew. The sheet says, hey, with drive time and everything else and shop time, you were 3.5 hours over budget. So if this was a piece rate pay system, each gentleman on that crew would have gotten paid for the full time of 10 hours, or actually the total time of, it'd be 22.5 divided by 2. So they would have gotten paid 11.25 hours when they only worked 10 hours. And that includes their lunch being taken out as well. So that's the benefit of it. We need a quality standard as well. Now, where we go with this data here is we need public accountability for success. We take that 118 percentage right here and put that on the shop wall. So if anything over 100%, they beat their budgeted time. So they're 18.42% under budget. If I manipulate this number back to 19, they did it 19, that's 100%. And if I drive it down to, let's just say 17 hours and took them 19, that's less than 100%. So conceptually, not that the guys and girls working for us aren't smart. They are extremely smart, at least the ones that were on our team. But conceptually, the easiest way to explain this is if you give 100%, you hit your budgeted time. If you only give 89% and didn't give 100%, you're over budget. And if you gave 118%, you kicked butt and you got paid probably an extra hour or two. You didn't work. Obviously, when we put this on the wall, we needed a quality standard. That was the first mistake we made. So the production was there, but not the quality. So the quality now is a plus or minus system from compliments and complaints of customers, as well as internal QC from a manager and owner that does random stops at each cruise properties that they've done, and they give a plus or minus system. So we have an external customer and an internal QC that drives the plus and minus next to the percent of budget. So this is how we go in and set up a system, and now we can track to make sure that we're covering the minimum for overtime on a sheet like this. We have a public accountability, and everybody in the company knows exactly where everyone's at. On an extremely high level, that's how you go in and create a production rate-based estimating system that ties into a piece rate pay system. Instead of you yelling at your crews and telling them to move, 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 and stop making those stupid trips to McDonald's 5 times a day, which is killing your profit. Now they're having ownership and making good decisions. Last thing before I hop on my call here is my Picasso. Right here, this is a house. So basically, on this house, if you're holding the weed whacker to the left, you park the truck here. If you hold the weed whacker to the right, we park the truck here. Reason being is we pull the truck up here. The gentleman or lady can get out. We'll use just a weed whacking example, but we're going to go down the gutter, up the driveway, down the sidewalk, up the other side of the sidewalk, up the driveway or around the house, back down the driveway, down the sidewalk, down the other sidewalk, down the street, or down the driveway, down around the street, and then up and around the whole exterior of the house and end back at the truck. Same exact process with the weed whacker. We're creating a standardized process and shaving 3 to 6 minutes a lawn out. So you could potentially be adding another hour and a half to 2 hours of billable production time by creating a standardized process. At the same time, the guy mowing is going to mow from the side of the house all the way front here. So whole front first and then finish the back. And as they finish it, the gentleman blowing can go through and blow it. And if you're training them right and they keep turning in, blowing their clippings, the blowing can be done. And basically they'll meet the gentleman or lady back at the truck for optimized production. The process and system of how we're going out and doing the jobs, because if our production rate based estimating is based on the system around this residential house and they're creating their own system, we are not going to have predictable results. We also need to be tracking the square footage of turf and creating that in your system. And on your dispatch board or closeout day screen, we're going to want to have those numbers in there under columns. We can go under custom fields and grab that turf square footage right here. And that will show up on your dispatch board and your reports, as well as going in and creating job costing reports to make sure every job is profitable. And when we do that, we're able to have a non-emotional way to just raise the prices on the properties that are not hitting our financial threshold goal. So comments or questions, leave below. I got to hop on a sales call. Hopefully this was helpful for piece rate pay system and how to create a foundational process in your business for success from day one.